On October 2014, Gohana Sonipat, Haryana, India. Under the cover of darkness, a group of thieves carry out one of the most audacious and meticulously planned heists in Indian history. In a feat that shocked the entire nation, they dug an underground tunnel over 100 feet long to break into a Punjab National Bank vault, escaping with over 100 crore rupees. This isn't just a story of a robbery. It's a story of patience, ingenuity, and a crime that had the police baffled for weeks. In the town of Gohana, Haryana, a group of thieves were plotting what would soon become one of the most daring heists in India. It all began with a rented space, a small shop right next to the PNB Bank. For months, the men posed as ordinary tenants, raising no suspicions. They visited the shop daily, engaging in what seemed like legitimate business. But what no one knew was that beneath their feet, they were digging. Their target? The bank vault. The plan was bold but risky. It required patience, skill, and the ability to stay invisible, all while digging a tunnel that would go unnoticed for weeks. And the reward? Millions of rupees stored safely in the bank vault, just a few feet away from the shop. Imagine digging a tunnel beneath the earth for weeks, knowing that one mistake could ruin everything. That's the kind of risk these thieves were willing to take. The thieves began their work in secrecy, using the shop as their base of operations. Day by day, they dug, carefully creating a tunnel that would eventually lead them directly under the bank's strong room. The tunnel was no ordinary feat of engineering. It stretched over 100 feet long, passing under several buildings and roads. It was reinforced to prevent collapse and was wide enough to allow the robbers to crawl through with ease. Above ground, life continued as usual. People walked the streets, completely unaware that underneath them, millions of rupees were about to be stolen. The planning, patience, and daring of the operation would soon shock the entire nation. After weeks of digging, the moment of truth had arrived. The tunnel was ready, but now the real test was about to begin. On a Saturday weekend night, when the bank was closed, the thieves made their move. After weeks of preparation, they had finally breached the vault of the PNB Bank. The moment they had worked so hard for was at hand. Under the cover of night, they broke into the vault and emptied it of its treasures. Cash, gold, and valuables worth over 100 crores were stuffed into bags. They had done it. The tunnel had served its purpose. But now came the most dangerous part, getting out without leaving a trace. Every step had to be perfect. They knew that the smallest mistake could lead to their downfall. Yet, as dawn approached, they vanished as quietly as they had appeared, leaving behind only a hole in the ground and an empty vault. On the Monday morning, the bank staff arrived for what they thought would be a normal day. But when they opened the vault, they were greeted by an eerie sight. The strong room was empty, the vault looted, and there in the corner was a tunnel leading directly into the earth. Panic set in as they realized what had happened. A crime of unimaginable scale had been pulled off under their noses. The police were immediately called, and soon the small town of Gohana became the center of one of the largest investigations in Indian history. News spread like wildfire, and the audacity of the heist gripped the nation. A crime of this scale was unprecedented, and the police were left scrambling to find clues in a case that seemed like a perfect crime. The discovery of the tunnel left everyone in shock. How could a group of thieves dig a tunnel over 100 feet long right under the bank without anyone noticing? The police launched an investigation, combing through the scene for any evidence that could lead them to the culprits. As the police examined the tunnel, they were astonished by its size and precision. The walls were reinforced, and the thieves had even installed lighting to work during the nights. This wasn't a simple heist. It was an operation planned to the finest detail. The media quickly picked up the story, and soon it was all over the news. The Great PNB Bank Heist. But despite the nationwide attention, the police had little to go on. The shop where the tunnel had been dug was abandoned, and there were no immediate leads. For weeks, it seemed like the robbers had gotten away. But in every perfect plan, there's always a small mistake that can unravel it all. Weeks passed, and the police were no closer to finding the thieves. But then, a small lead emerged. Investigators discovered that the men who had rented the shop had used fake identities, but one piece of paperwork had been left behind. It wasn't much, but it was enough to give the police a new direction. Soon, the police, following a series of clues and leads, managed to trace several suspects to nearby villages and cities. The investigation quickly gathered momentum as law enforcement agencies worked tirelessly to connect the dots. Piece by piece, the network of individuals involved in the heist came to light. Over the next few weeks, several members of the gang were arrested in well-coordinated operations across different locations, each arrest shedding more light on the intricately planned robbery. Bit by bit, the story of the heist began to unravel. It became evident that this was no spontaneous act. These men had been meticulously planning the heist for nearly 2 years, carefully and patiently plotting every detail. During the planning stage, the robbers had dedicated a considerable amount of time to studying the bank's layout, its entrances, exits, and security measures. Not only did they familiarize themselves with the physical structure of the bank, but they also conducted detailed examination of the surrounding areas. In fact, the group had scouted multiple bank locations over the 2-year period, weighing the pros and cons of each site. They would visit banks pretending to be customers, taking note of security cameras, alarm systems, and the placement of guards. After much deliberation, they ultimately settled on the PNB branch in Gohana, Haryana. Its relatively isolated location and limited surveillance, combined with the absence of a police station in close proximity, made it seem like the ideal target. In their eyes, it was the perfect place to carry out the crime without drawing too much attention or encountering swift law enforcement response. Even after arrests were made and the case started to close, the PNB heist left an indelible mark on the nation. The sheer scale and precision of the crime captured the public's imagination, inspiring documentaries, news specials, and endless speculations. The heist became a legend, a reminder of what can happen when determination, audacity, and meticulous planning collide. But it also left a question that continues to linger. Could it happen again? The PNB Bank heist shook the entire banking industry, leading to a review of security measures across the country. The daring nature of the crime, combined with the massive amount of money stolen, made it one of the most high-profile cases in Indian history. Even today, the PNB Bank heist remains a cautionary tale for those who believe in the illusion of absolute security. It remains one of India's most sensational robberies. From the quiet town of Gohana to the nation's headlines, it captured the imagination of millions. The case inspired tighter security protocols in banks nationwide, and yet the story of the heist continues to captivate the public imagination. It's a tale of risk, reward, and an audacious crime that brought an entire town and a nation into shock. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into one of India's biggest heists, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thrilling stories. Stay safe, and remember, sometimes it's not about what you steal, it's about what you leave behind.